Okay, so we're back with part 2 of our series around market operations.
Was it me? Oh, well, that's good. I thought we were good though. That made it even
No,
better.
it was fun. I wasn't laughing. I was just smiling. I was just smiling.
There we go.
Alright.
I'm getting the giggles.
Yeah. All right, so we got to start over.
Okay, let's just carry on going.
All right.
Alright, we're back. Part 2 of our series. The first episode was around why marketing ops should think about maybe staying longer in their job. That was based off our survey that was around employee turnover in marketing ops, and it was clear there was a problem. And we knew that we could see that the average number of roles that someone had in the course of 5 years was like 3 jobs, and that isn't a very long period of time. So we made the case for maybe why you should stay longer than that. So you can go back to that first one, watch it. But today, this is geared more toward the leader, whoever's managing marketing operations, and things that they can do to prevent high turnover, but overall just to make things, more enjoyable for their team, and so this could be geared toward the CMO or, director of marketing operations, and we're kind of pulling from our own experience or things that we've seen go well. So
yeah, I think it's important to call out that sometimes there's a boss of the marketing operations team that isn't really a marketing operations person.
yeah.
So I think this is very valuable for them, given that there's specific things related to the marketing ops team that they might not be aware of, and ways to keep them happy.
Yeah. So
You want to kick it off?
sure. So I think this is one thing that Charlie and I do, but I think it's just a simple thing. So I feel like you should be doing it already. But really make sure that you're spending time meeting with your team, right? So like monthly one-on-ones is a good example. Having a time to check in, and that doesn't mean a check-in on work. It just means like to check in with them and see like how they're doing.
Sorry, our dog's kind of getting the picture here.
Layla's decided to join this video because she got jealous. So, and
That was one thing that I really valued coming to CS2 is I never really had weekly or monthly check-ins before with my manager, and I just think it's a good time to like bring up any issues that might be going on, and I always know that I have that coming up if I want to talk about something.
for sure, yeah. And I think you might find that at first during a one-on-one that you need to kind of set the ground, like set the framework, because we're not always comfortable talking to our managers about things that might be struggling for us, or issues. And so I feel like if you're starting that conversation and making them feel comfortable, then they're gonna be more open to you. And sometimes that even is showing your own vulnerability. So if you're talking about past experiences that you've had, or maybe to tell them why you think it's important to start doing that. Maybe you didn't have a boss who had one-to-ones with you. That'll just let them feel more comfortable. They want to feel like it's a safe space to talk about things and not have it impact their role. They want to be honest. So if there's no one's honest, you're not going to get anything out of those conversations.
Yeah, I think so much goes not being said in those kind of situations, and I think that's a great point. Like, kind of say what you're struggling with, try and open up the conversation, and then just try and have those hard, uncomfortable conversations. Not kind of a combative conversation, but like really try and understand like really what's going on, and if there is an uncomfortable conversation that needs to be had, like something that they're struggling with, or something that they might be having an issue with another team member, and like really try and uncover it, and just not just play the political game or just pretend everything's perfect,
And not just making it seem like they can only come to them when it's work related, but personal as well. We carry so much into work every day. We're not robots. We live lives outside of work. So making your team members feel like they can come to you, and just be open, maybe vent a little bit, because a lot of times that's what's impacting the work. It's not so much just work related.
Yeah. And I think it's hard because a lot of people feel like they can't come to those things with an issue because they want to be seen as that they're complaining.
Right.
Especially in America, everyone's got to be so positive. But I think you've got to be real, right? And if there's something that is an issue, you've got to talk about it. Otherwise, it's never going to get resolved.
Yeah. And that just opens up the a chance for your employee to ask for maybe things that they might be missing in their role, or feel comfortable saying whether they want like a path, like for promotion, what they can do to get there, because that's going to help them figure out if they can stay in this role to hit their goals. So
So that's kind of a nice segue to the next one, actually, that creating that path of growth. And in the previous video, we mentioned that there's a lot of responsibility on the person themselves to figure out what they want, articulate what they want, figure out how, with their manager, how they can get there, what they need to achieve, and the milestones and everything. But again, from the boss's point of view, you need to be providing them with that path, because it's funny, with marketing operations, it is not a niche, but a specialist skill set within marketing. So a lot of people sometimes feel like they can get pigeonholed in there and they can't grow. So you need to be very clear about how they can grow within the company, both within the role they're in and then future roles for them. Otherwise, they're just going to jump ship as soon as someone offers them, the same function with a better level, right? You're a manager, someone's just going, oh, come work for me, I'll make you a senior manager, So you need to be very clear about when they can achieve that, and then be obvious with the milestones they'll need to achieve, right? You're not just going to give it to them with no material improvement in what they're doing, but being very clear on what they need to do to get there.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that means even looking outside yourself to maybe if they want like a mentor. So, mentors don't always have to be your boss. So if you're working with your employee, you may say, like, is there anyone in the organization that you find like inspiring, like their role, that they can maybe seek them out as a mentor, or maybe there's other groups out there where they can find one, kind of like Women in Revenue. We have a mentorship program, so that could be another place where maybe someone seeks out mentorship, but it doesn't solely have to rely on the manager, but reminding them that there are these tools, there are places where they can even get inspired to figure out what career path they want to go into, because it's not always straightforward, it's not linear, it might not even be in marketing operations, but having that open conversation and reminding them there are places outside yourself to get that info. It's good.
Next one?
Yeah, okay, I can take the next one then. I think it's definitely a huge responsibility for the boss to be bad cop. I think that's what you said in one of your old bosses. That's what they would call it, bad cop. Because most people are people pleasers, and you want to try and keep everyone happy, especially in operations. You've got the rest of the marketing team, and they all are asking you to do things, and you want to just say yes to everything. You don't want to be seen as the person that's stopping everyone else achieving their goals, right? You've got field marketing coming, I've got an event, I've got to do it now. You've got demand gen, I've got to get this email out. And you've just got sales, you've got everyone, you've got all of these stakeholders in the company. And you want to say yes to everyone, but you just can't. It's going to drive you crazy. It's going to drive the person working for you crazy, and it's just not the most strategic way for them to handle all the work they've got to do and really create the value for your company. So you can tell them all day long, and I've seen it a lot where the boss will just say, oh no, you can say no, but
tell them to take it up with me if there's any issues.
Well, I mean, I guess what I was trying to say is that they will say that you can say no, but then they'll just leave it at that. But what they have to say is, you can say no, but I will also say no for you, right? So escalate it to me if there's an issue with you saying no. But a lot of managers kind of stop at the first part, where they just kind of give them permission, just say no. But then they don't really dig into that person, into the pressures on that person, and figure out, okay, well, it's going to be very hard for them to say no without my approval for them to say no. So don't be hands off. Figure out all of their priorities, help them prioritize, and work with them to figure out what they can say no to. and then be that bad cop if you have to be.
Yeah. And I think similar to that, and what I've found in the past to be successful too, and it's kind of a hard pill to swallow, but also taking the fall with your team, and being that like person. So if an issue happens, and yes, it was maybe clear that someone on your team made that mistake, but then it's your mistake as well, and you want to work with them to figure out, okay, how do we, get back from this? Like, what did we learn? Like, okay, what are we going to do now? What's the next steps? But in the end, like when you're communicating that, so say you need to communicate something went wrong with the campaign, you can be that first line of defense, and protect them, because that's something that, when they're managing one day, that hopefully they do too. But it helps having more than one person who has to take that fall, because everyone hates making mistakes. It's shitty, but it's bound to happen in marketing ops. Like, it doesn't matter how smart you are, like something is going to go wrong. You're going to click the wrong, button or whatever it may be. But for your team, especially if it's a junior team, like really step up and take that fall for them. But then on the end, on the side, communicate with them and help them learn from that situation.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because they can get so demoralized if you make a mistake. And
absolutely.
Then it's hard. It's really hard. And then, as soon as that, it's a slippery slope. I've seen it so many times where someone makes a mistake, they then spend ages trying to correct it. They feel bad. They'll make another mistake, and they'll make another mistake, and then they'll make and it's just this self-perpetuating cycle that just keeps on getting worse and worse and worse. And then that person's going to leave, and you could have nipped it in the bud right at the beginning if you just said, well, okay, I know, you were the person physically that did that thing, but it's my fault because I probably didn't train you, or I didn't QA that with you, or
there's too much to do, and
put
then
too much on your plate.
You put too much. There's too much on their plate. So part of it could actually be something that you could have mitigated, for sure.
Yeah.
Taking ownership. So
MOPS, I think, is like the person you want to blame when something in the process goes wrong, but it's not always MOPS' fault, and there could be something else. So
yeah, they're the scapegoat so often.
I think that's a good segue to another one, because as much as MOPS gets blamed for everything, on the other hand is they don't get the recognition they deserve. They don't get the, the public recognition or just like celebration and praise. And I don't think that it needs to be like something public that you do like to the whole team. But you do want everyone to know kind of all the great things your marketing ops team is doing. So that can be like, working with someone on your team to take something they just built, like a lead scoring model, and then build a presentation on it. Or, put that in front of the SDR team or your sales team, but have them do it. Because that's another skill that then they're working on. Like, they're working on the presentation skills. They get more visibility in the company, and that just makes them feel, more rewarded, because they're able to show off all the hard work that they did and get the recognition.
And one thing we did recently that I liked was we looked back at 2019 to kind of look at our accomplishments for the year, and maybe that's something we should do more often, so you can kind of be like, hey, I did all of this year, and here's what was celebrated, here's what I could learn from.
The format that we did was the 3x3 for that, and I thought it worked nicely, because so often we're just looking forward. It's like, what are we going to do next quarter? What are we going to do next half? What are we going to do next year? So the three things that you were proud of from last year, 3 things that were a challenge, that either you overcame or you didn't, and then 3 things you're looking forward to for the next year. Just having an open conversation about it, and that could be even a format that you use on your one-on-ones every month.
Yeah.
What was the 3 things that you were proud of over the last month? 3 things you found a challenge with, and then 3 things you're looking forward to next month.
Yeah. And I think that can, and you said like content for one-on-ones, that can be hard. That can even be something at the end of the week you have your team document. So then they have like 4 weeks, or I've done that in mentorship before too. Or lately I've been like journaling every day and do something similar, kind of how I'm feeling, what are the things I was like proud of that day. And I mean, maybe your team members can, do that, whatever fits them. Because this is something you don't want to fit like a square into a circle. You want to figure out, okay, what is going to be something that you can actually stick to, but is going to help you make these meetings like worthwhile, So.
Yeah, were you going to add something to that, or did we cover it?
Yeah, you covered it. Yeah.
And then I think the final one, there's probably a ton more, but the final one is around actually having financial incentives for your team in marketing operations. A lot of other teams have bonuses or goal-related incentives, but marketing operations kind of gets left behind because it's just such a technical role and people don't really know how to create goals for that. But it's totally possible, right?
Totally, yeah.
Whether you use something like an OKR framework, or you have just big projects that you want to deliver throughout the year, and that would be, if you can deliver this, then you can get this percentage of your bonus. And I think it just takes some creativity, working with HR and making sure that you can actually, fund that. But having something that they have control over, which can give them that extra incentive to work hard, deliver something, and stay longer, I think can really help retention beyond just paying them a salary and throwing away the work at them.
Yeah, and this could be a fun thing. I don't know if you guys have other ideas of incentives, but it doesn't always have to be monetary. Like, it could be, okay, an incentive if you meet your goals is you get to do this special course and like we'll fund it, or we do Club S2 here, so if we meet our goals, we go on like a special trip. That could
and that's
be
something, I think that's a thing we should probably mention in more detail, because sales always have their club trips, right? Why can't all the other teams have them, right? So if marketing operations, if you meet your goals, you should take everyone away once a year, right? It's something that everyone can look forward to.
That's why we invented Club S2.
Yeah, exactly.
And to your point, Chrissy, like in my last job, I actually had an opportunity to where it was room allocated in the budget for us to, like, it was like $1,000, and we could either every quarter we can do a conference or a course. Like I did a serious decisions course, which I felt was rewarding. It was long, but I learned so much. So I mean, that's a great way to incentivize the team as well.
Yeah, that culture of learning and actually putting money behind that, not just like telling them to go watch a webinar or something, but actually putting some real substance behind it.
Yeah, and if you're investing in your employees, like, you're gonna probably reap the ROI of that, from them like staying. Like, if someone feels like their employer's really invested in their career growth, in them as a person, and them like, they're gonna be a better worker, so that's instant ROI, right? But also, like, they're gonna want to stay. There's more reason to stay than just like getting a pay rise or someone luring them with this hot new tech startup role. And so, be creative is what we're trying to say. So don't look at it like you need massive budgets, or if you don't have a promotion in the plan, like, think of ways that you can incentivize your team.
And really just think about retention and how important it is.
Yeah.
Right? We talked a lot about how they can do it. It's obvious why it's important. If you haven't hired someone every year, it's expensive, all of that knowledge is lost. So it is very important to focus on retention as a competitive advantage for your team and your company. So I guess to try to sum it up, different ways. I think we talked about making sure they have a clear path of growth, constant check-ins where you have a clear agenda and what you're going to talk about, helping them structure their day, their priorities, and being bad cop when you need to, giving them the recognition they deserve, including bonus incentives, and being creative with that, and then making sure that they have the tools they need to learn and constantly be improving. Yeah. So I think that sums it up pretty nicely, right? Yeah.
And if you have any ideas that you've put into action to keep your team, or if you have a team that lasts long, let us know. I want to hear it.
Yep.
All right.
See you next time. Forward. We need like an ending cap.
Yeah.